Okay, in continuing, we're going to talk a little bit about bereavement. Because we're hospice, and because people die, and because they leave loved ones that miss them, and their hearts are broken. So we offer, and all hospices are required, it's a regulation, that we offer bereavement, but it's not something that you would have to make us do. I don't think any hospice ever complained because, oh my gosh, we have to do bereavement. This is just something that we do. We're there for the family. 13 months after the patient dies. We're there for them to make sure that they get through those first holidays, the hardest holidays. They're so hard. And they've lost someone, and that person's not going to be there at that holiday. So we're there for them. We have a bereavement counselor. It's one of our chaplains, and he steps in. He sees patients on a regular basis also as a chaplain, and he sees their caregivers, their families. He speaks with them and asks, what can I do? What can I do for you? And preparing them as the nurses do, as the social workers do. We all try to prepare them. The next step, this is what you might expect if the disease process follows its normal, natural course. This is what we are going to look for. But the patient dies, and they know that's going to happen. And it's hard. And when that patient dies, a little bit of them dies with a lot of it. A lot of it, depending on the relative, if it's a parent or if it's a daughter or a son, your heart dies with them. And we know that. So our staff is prepared to hold them up and to walk with them. And if we need to go further than 13 months, we certainly will. Regulations state 12 months, but we certainly will go further. And recommendations will be made for group therapies, churches. There's several areas out there. We don't have a bereavement group yet for group meetings, but that's something that will be happening in the future. And caregiver burnout, that's another one that needs to be given. And these are all areas we're working for in the future. But with bereavement, when the patient dies, flowers are sent to the family or to the funeral home or mortuary. Cards are sent, signed by all the staff, not just a card sent out from Phoenician Hospice. We all sign the card. If it comes by your desks, please sign it, because that lets them know this really was a team that took care of us. Phone calls are made by the bereavement. Phone calls are made, visits are made periodically, cards are sent out. We're thinking about you. How are you? Are you holding up? What can I do? Where can I help you get through this? We have Christmas coming up. What can I do to help you through this? Let's talk. Let me come and visit. See how you're doing. Those kind of things. Bereavement is so essential to end-of-life care because there's other lives that continue on, and yet they're grieving. And so that's a very specialized area to be part of. Unfortunately, we have suicide and fragile families. Fragile families, I think everyone that's losing a loved one becomes fragile. Some more fragile than others. And so the nurses and social workers are always assessing the family members and the caregivers to see where they are in that level. When they first hear that there's nothing more that can be done for your loved one, I recommend hospice. Then the next step is they get the deer in the headlight look. They already know, but when someone says it, verbalizes it, it's a shock. They're fragile. But then, unless the patient is really like days left, if we have a little bit of time to work with the family and the patient, but work with the family educate them, be with them, let them know that we're there. They take a breath and they calm down. Then they're not so fragile. So then we take them from maybe a high risk to a moderate or a low risk. Went the wrong way. High risk, moderate, low risk. So we're always observing for this and seeing where we need to be with them at the level that they need us to be. And they can surprise you. As a nurse, I can tell you that when I'm with the patient and the patient is dying and the family is all there, and it's minutes to maybe an hour left, and the family is all there, and they're all surrounding this patient. Some are crying, some are quiet, some are just looking, some are holding their hands, each other's hands, some are touching the patient. But the patient's doing what they need to do, and they're doing it beautifully. They're calm, they're peaceful, they're relaxed, they're not in pain, they're not suffering. They're doing what they need to do beautifully. They're transitioning into the next life, the next step, whatever your belief system is. I'm not trying to force mine on, but they're transitioning into the end of this life. The family is standing there surrounding this patient. As a nurse, I'm standing back, trying to be invisible and watching now the family. Who's going to get hysterical? Who's going to pass out? Who's going to throw up? They're all probably going to cry. And so as a nurse, when I'm in that situation, now I'm assessing all the family members. I've got chairs behind everybody. I've got a cool, damp washcloth by each chair. I have a little box of tissues for them on each chair. I have big boxes for when they run out of the little ones. I have a couple of basins for those that I can see they're doing this. That's a sure indication they're going to throw up. And so I'm ready for that. I will have an aide called in to be with me, one of our CNAs, and I will tell her which ones to stand behind. Get this one set down. Let's get this one set down. She's going to pass out. Get a cool cloth, put it behind her neck, like her forehead. And I'm watching the patient as their breaths go less and less. And they go, and the patient, the families aren't breathing. And whenever there's the families go right along with them. And it's a very emotional time for them. And it's spiritual. No matter what your belief system is, it's a spiritual time. And I'm watching, and as I see that decreasing and decreasing, the breaths getting quieter and quieter, spaced further and further. And then when there's an extended length of time, I'll go up to the patient, listen for the heart, take the pulse, watch. I always tell them, the family, that there may be one more breath, exhaling, because there's always a little bit of air left in the lungs. And when the lungs relax, when the diaphragm relaxes, there's going to be a, and that doesn't mean that they're still alive. It means that the last bit of air came out. They took their last breath here on this earth, and they're taking their first breath somewhere else. And they did it beautifully. And I'm watching the family, and now they're my patient. I can't give them drugs, but I can give them my heart. I can hold them. I can comfort them. And when they're ready, then we call the mortuary, but not before. They can take as much time as they want. I clean up the patient if they're not already cleansed, rearranged. Some people like, which is an old-fashioned thing, but I do it. I offer to do it because sometimes the mouth is open, so I roll up a washcloth to put under the chin so the mouth is closed. Close the eyes. Make them comfortable. Make the family comfortable. Be with them, and then I back away. Not too far, but I'll go out of the room and let them grieve as long as they need. And then they'll eventually, one or two at a time will come out, and they're still crying. And they'll go someplace else and sit if they're in a home, or they'll go to the quiet room in a facility. And pretty soon you hear them talking. Remember when? Remember when she did this? She was a hoot. And that's what I wait for, is to hear this remember when conversation. And then the last one will come out. Usually it's a spouse or a parent. And I give them time to remember when. And then I ask when they're ready, I will make the call. And I wait till the mortuary comes, because that's the second hardest thing that they have to do. The first was probably more than the second, but the first was actually getting the hospice. Nothing we can do. The second is watching them die. So the third would be watching a mortuary take their loved one away. They don't cover them up. They do on TV. So forget TV. Forget that. But they do come in and they transfer them on to the roller stretcher, whatever it's called. But that they can wheel out. They're put on into a nice, kind of like a sleeping bag, but it zips up the front, but then they fold it over. Many of them, they either have like a white satin one or a purple one, or, you know, to make it a presentable, nice appearance. They have a white pillow under their head. They move them onto that stretcher. They don't cover the face up because the family is going to be there, and they're not going to do that to them. And then they exit out, and sometimes it's like the first funeral march, because the family will 2 by 2 follow them out and line up behind the hearse next to each side of it. They'll line up as they put the stretcher in. Then we have tears all over again, and we go in and comfort some more. Usually have the chaplain there, maybe the social worker also. And then we get to the remember when, and then it's okay for me to leave. If I have that opportunity to be with them, that's the process that I take. Each nurse has their own way, but that's the way I handle it, because to me it's all about them. I get emotional, but if I get emotional and start sobbing, they're going to take care of me, and that's just wrong. They shouldn't have to comfort me. I'm there for them. So that's that professional boundary that we maintain. It's okay to shed a tear. I get emotional talking about it because this is my passion. And that's okay to shed a tear, because then they know you care. But it's not okay to start sobbing and fall apart. That's no good for them. So that's fragile families. We do have suicide risks. I took that way further with bereavement and fragile families, but I got into my passion, and so thank you for bearing with me on that. We do have suicide risks and suicide watches. Patients that just don't have any family. They don't have anyone. They're tired of hurting. They're tired of being sick. They're old. They just want it over. And so they may verbalize, I just want to die. Now, all of them are usually ready. Not all of them, but a great many of them, and they'll say, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm good. But it's when I want to die. Do you have the means? Why, yes, I do. I got a gun. I got knives. I got pills. Do you have a plan? Why, yes, I do. As soon as you leave. and they're free, you know, they are openly saying they're going to commit suicide. So then we will visit daily. We'll get a promise from them. Please promise me, tell me now that you will be here tomorrow when I come, and we'll talk some more, okay? And they'll say, okay, and they'll be there. And there's actually a contract we can write, a day-to-day or a week-to-week, depending. But usually if you make them promise you that they'll be there, we can't make them not, but we can try to get them through it by being with them. And that's what being with is. Hospice people will say, being with. What is the most important thing? Being with. What does that mean? It means being with. It's not about me. It's empathy. It's compassion. It's being with that person silently. I don't know if any of you have ever just held someone's hands and looked into each other's eyes and not said a word. And at first you kind of want to giggle, maybe laugh, and then pretty soon, just don't lose that eye connection. Don't lose it. And just hold it, and pretty soon you're overwhelmed with an emotion. That's being with, because you feel that connection with them. That's being with. And it's an emotion of compassion and caring. You may not know this patient or this person, but you're with them at that moment. Let's see, where am I? Okay, effective communication. I think that I've spoken on effective communication throughout. It's all about communicating. It's all about education, which is communicating. We don't sit them down and say, we're going to go to school now. We're explaining, we're educating, we're giving them documents of this is what to expect, this is how it may happen. This is education. We can offer them education at every time we're with them. We offer education. On the phone, you're offering education. And they can accept it or not. It's an educational opportunity. And that opportunity is theirs to accept or to say no. We have patient rights. All medical arenas have patient rights, and they're all pretty much the same. And it's a long list, and I'm not going to read that long list. It's posted here in the agency, this long list. They have the right to privacy. They have the right to be treated with respect. They have the right to have their surroundings treated with respect. They have the right of privacy, not just when they're getting bathed or when we're doing an assessment. They have a right to privacy that you're not going to share any of their medical information with them, with anyone. They have that right. There's a lot. They have a right not to be abused or taken advantage of or neglected. They have rights as a patient. They have a right to say, I don't feel like having a shower today. I'm not hungry. I want my breakfast at 11 o'clock. I know noon is when we have lunch, so I'll have a brunch. They have rights, and we respect those rights 100%. I have given you a handout because hospice patients have all those same rights too. We're a medical agency. Our patients have those rights. But hospice patients also have other rights, the rights of the dying. And these are areas that people sometimes are afraid to approach or broach. They have the right to be treated as living human beings because they are alive. They want you to touch them. They want you to talk to them. Even if it's end-stage Alzheimer's and they're in the fetal position, they're alert and oriented times 0, which means they don't even know that they're here. So they have the rights to know that people care and that we're going to talk to them. They have the right to maintain a sense of hopefulness, and that hope changes. It changes sometimes daily. Maybe it's not a hope for a cure, but maybe it's a hope to not be in pain. Maybe it's a hope that you'll get to see your son who's in Afghanistan. And Red Cross is trying to get that son home, and we let them know he's on his way. There's a hope. There's a great hope. They have the right to express their feelings and their emotions about death in their own way. And sometimes that's anger. And sometimes it's acceptance. And sometimes it's, I'm okay with it. I've had a great life. Or I am not ready. I have something else to do. Well, what is that bucket list? Let's see what we can get done. And let's see how we can do it. It may not be exact, but maybe we can get close. They have the right to participate in their decisions. Do they want to take opioids for pain? Maybe they don't. How else can we take care of that pain? There's other ways that we can try. They have the right to be cared for with compassion, sensitivity, knowledgeable people that know how to deliver this care, and that we try to understand their needs by talking and assessments. They have the right to have continuing medical care, and the goals have changed from cure to comfort, and they have the right to know that. Some cultures don't want that to be done. You talk to one person, and that person will tell you what you're allowed to say and what you can't say to the patient, and we have to respect that culture. If we told the patient, I'm sorry, you're dying, that would just be so against their culture. So we have to be culturally sensitive. They have the right to have all questions answered honestly. And again, culturally, it may be answering the questions to someone else, giving them the answers. They have the right to seek their own spirituality. Spirituality is not religion. Spirituality is yourself. It's self. It's who you are. It's how you feel and see this world, and how you express your emotions, and it's you, your spirituality. It's not religion. They have the right to be free of physical pain. They have the right of their children participating in their death. And some cultures, I've just so appreciated that the whole family is there. All 500 of them are in one little room, and the children are running around and crawling all over the bed, and someone's dying, and it's okay, because that's what Grandma and Grandpa would want. And it's all good. And I think this is great, because that's the way I was brought up. They have the right to die. They have that right. When there's nothing left that the doctors can do, it's your turn, it's your time, and they have that right. And to die with peace and dignity. And I'm not going to go through all of these. I gave you the handout, and I think it's very important for people in hospice to understand and appreciate the rights of the dying. And so we're going to break for some questions.